right. Thanking God and praising him again for, among other things, endurance. And so let's call this chapter Daniel, I was going to call it Ezekiel again. Daniel chapter 10, endurance part 2. In this chapter, we're in the 3rd year of Cyrus the king. 3 times, I think it's going to say, maybe at least 2, Daniel gets a word, but it's also going to refer to a vision, quite possibly to the same word that he gets in this chapter, which is going to seem to be somewhat obscure, at least to us. However, he is this time going to understand what he either sees or hears or both, saying that for 3 weeks his mouth took in no delicacies. It doesn't say that he fully fasted as he seemed to do in the chapter where he does all of the confessing and talking about the need for repentance. But he says he takes in no delicacies, at least this time, for 3 weeks, as this vision or word seems to come to him at or along the banks of the Tigris River, where he saw a man who he alone saw. However, whatever happened caused his companions to fear so much that they fled, even though they might not have likewise seen the man. Either way, the appearance of the man left him with no strength, to the point where he fell, but was set up and told to stand, encouraged by being told he was a man who was, as we saw in the last chapter, greatly loved. That gives him a little bit of encouragement. So he stands still trembling, told to fear not. He is encouraged more by saying from the time he first set his heart to understand, I guess, some of these things, the answer went out. But the ones carrying the answer were delayed, or at least the man carrying the answer was delayed, saying that only Michael and I think the prince of the people of Israel, were delayed in resisting or contending with the prince of Persia, I believe. However, now the man has come to explain what will happen in the later days, to which Daniel replies, how can I even so much as engage in the conversation, or really, I guess, hear anymore, or just even carry on, understanding that there is no strength left in me? At which point, once again, the man is going to tell him that he is a man who is greatly loved, which will strengthen him, as he's going to go on to say, I will return to fight or contend with the prince of Persia once again, with no one to aid me but Michael, your prince. And once he goes out, the prince of Greece will come. Reminding me of something we have talked about recently, both on Sunday and on a recent Wednesday, actually, this recent Wednesday, talking about the way that, first of all, the Wednesday discussion involved more on that whole concept of there being times when no matter how tapped or sapped we might seem for strength, simply knowing that we are loved can help us refill the gas tank a little bit. Beyond that, though, some substance would help. And in this chapter, one of the things that it also reminded me of, as we mentioned on our recent Sunday, is the degree to which in places where you have all kinds of positions, some with great honor and some considered to be relatively humble. A lot of times it's the quote unquote humble positions that have the greater endurance, thus our title, reminding me of my time in college. The guy who ran the equipment room, had outlasted many a player and many a coach and many an administration, but he had been there for years, almost as I won't say as much of the foundation as the institution, but if a person could be as foundational as some of the bricks laid at the foundation of that college, he would have been it. And so he is not the only one. He represents in a lot of ways what Daniel reminds me of here, understanding that some of the encouragement God gives his people is that these turmoils or these tribulations are actually going to take the lives of some, if not many. But beyond the hope that they have of outlasting those who may, quote unquote, conquer them in this life, there is a longevity that God adds to the subtlety in humble positions. Understanding that Jesus himself said, the greatest among you will be the servant of all. And so beyond the hope that his servants have of a greater endurance than the powers that seem to overcome them, there's a low-key level of endurance that God gives in this realm as well, for those who simply, humbly serve him. In much the same way we see Daniel surviving 3 great kings who rise and fall during his administration, as God is then going to point forward to the kingdom that will be next, the kingdom of Greece. as the kingdom of Persia fades. Reminding me that also with endurance, God sometimes adds an additional wisdom, understanding that this chapter is kind of a cliffhanger where the word that God gives to Daniel seems to be just for Daniel. The chapter ending without us being told specifically what Daniel learns. Seem to be a corollary to chapters we've seen before and we will see after, where Daniel is told to shut up the word that is given to him.